Excuse me, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? I don't know what else to say besides for that. Like, genuinely. What the fuck? I'm trying to think of something else to say. What the fuck? This video is not going to be monetized with a very high CPM because I'm opening this up with like 15 what the fucks. But what the fuck did the Los Angeles Clippers just do? What the fuck did the Denver Nuggets just do? Well, I'll tell you what they just did. The Denver Nuggets just came back from a 3-1 lead after last round coming back from a 3-1 lead. And the Los Angeles Clippers just blew a 3-1 lead despite being one of the 3 teams this year that was heavily touted as one of the favorites for the championship by many people in the media and by my dumbass. I said that this team was going to win the championship in 2020. I made a video about it where that was my direct claim, so I look like an idiot right now. But that's not the point. Regardless of what my take is, what the fuck? The first couple of games in this series, it really seemed like the reason this was a close series was more Denver playing better than the Clippers rather than the Clippers underperforming. However, that was not the case through the whole time because in Game 7, while the Nuggets played a good game, they didn't play a phenomenal one like they did in the other games that they won in this series. The Clippers just forgot how to basketball. Kawhi Leonard, I don't know what the exact number was, but when I left the game with about a minute left, he was like 6 for 30. Like some whack shit. Paul George was like 6 for 20-something. They were bricking every fucking shot that they took, and they were actually playing decent defense down the stretch on the Nuggets. Jamal Murray hit some crazy shots, which you expect from him, and a few other players hit some shots that were like pretty well defended. But on offense, the Los Angeles Clippers could not buy a bucket. Paul George hit the corner of the backboard on a three-pointer. Lou Williams had a layup go in and out that was wide open. What the fuck? So, there are a lot of things to think about this whole thing, and among them is what the fuck at the top of the list. But if I'm going to break down why this series did not go in Los Angeles' favor and why they ultimately had their downfall, which I think is what I'm going to title this fucking thing. I would title it what the fuck if that wouldn't immediately get the video demonetized. First of all, Kawhi Leonard. That's the one reliable thing the Clippers have had this entire season. The Clippers have been a little bit iffy at times, and I acknowledge that even with my take of them being the team that I expected to win the 2020 championship, but I definitely expected Kawhi Leonard to show up in this game, and the reason why I felt confident in saying it'd be the Clippers is because I trusted Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard played like dog shit in this game, and when he wasn't bricking shots, he was being passive, so it was like he didn't even fucking care. And that's so out of character for Kawhi Leonard. Completely out of character. Now, I'm still, I don't know. I don't want to be too reactionary, but LeBron James might be the best player in the league now because I've been saying it's Kawhi, but after that Game 7, man, I don't know about that one, man. I don't know about that one. So, I don't know. I'm a little up in the air on that right now. This is my raw thoughts. This is all unscripted, obviously. I didn't write a script this fucking fast. B-Souls had to beat me to the punch by making a video before this even started, which was kind of genius, but I don't like putting up that effort if it's not going to be rewarded. But here we are now, and the Clippers lost to the Nuggets in 7 games. So, Kawhi Leonard sucked, Paul George sucked, everybody sucked in this game. And the other reason why the Clippers were losing some more games in this series than you would like initially was both Lou Williams as well as Montrezl Harrell. I said the L in there, but I didn't mean to, but it also makes sense because they've been taking fucking L's, and so has Montrezl Harrell because he fucking sucked this entire series. But I was like, you know, Lou Will and Harrell have been bad, so the offense has really been relying on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, so, you know, I think they should be fine as long as Harrell and Lou play okay. But then in Game 7, although Harrell and Lou didn't play particularly well, George and Kawhi completely didn't show up. Now, I expect Paul George to not show up in a Game 7 at this point. That's kind of the expectation with him. But Kawhi Leonard, what the fuck? And then if we can talk about the Denver Nuggets, because very often when something like this happens, like, well, this isn't something that's even happened before, but very often a team that's not the favorite wins, and then more people focus on the collapse of that team, and I'm doing it right now, fucking obviously. a Clippers video is going to get more views than a Nuggets video. But the Nuggets have come back from 2 3-1 leads in a row. Like, I'm genuinely wondering if they're going to go down 3-1 to the Lakers and they're going to come back from that shit too at this point. And that's fucking ridiculous. Nikola Jokic is the best center in the NBA. Please shut the hell up if you think it's anybody else. Anthony Davis is not a center until he starts playing center consistently. And even if he was, I don't even know if he's better than Nikola Jokic, because if you ask me, if you replaced Jokic and Anthony Davis in this series, the Denver Nuggets would have lost in 6 games. But that's not important right now. Either way, Jokic, best center in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard, what the fuck. Paul George choked as usual. Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams did not show up. Doc Rivers, that's who else I need to talk about. So I've had rather iffy opinions on Doc Rivers. I haven't been strongly one way or the other on whether or not he's a great coach or a bad coach. I definitely didn't think he was really either, but as this series has gone along, and especially this Game 7, Doc Rivers is a bad coach, and he needs to be fired 2 minutes after this game is over. I wouldn't be shocked if by the time this video gets out, which will be about an hour after the game, that maybe even less, that it's reported that he's been fired. Because if I was the general manager, I think Jerry West is the current general manager of the Clippers, I'd fire him immediately. Because he didn't make a single fucking adjustment this game to make up for the fact that nobody was playing well. And this sort of ability to go stale and stagnant on offense and really just go completely fucking cold. Like, I believe they went on a 7-minute stretch without scoring the ball in this game. When that happens, there is no adjustment for the Clippers because the Clippers don't have an offensive system. And I made a video on this, and though my take on them winning the 2020 championship has obviously not aged well because they're out of the playoffs, my take about them being overly reliant on tough, difficult, contested shots has aged very well, because even though the Clippers got some good looks in this game, they were really struggling to get consistent good looks because they don't have a real playmaker. Kawhi Leonard averages like 5 assists, and Lou Williams averages like 4, and Patrick Beverley averages like 4, and that's their playmaking. And those guys are not particularly strong playmakers. They're just like someone has to get assists sometimes. And their over-reliance on difficult shots, the over-reliance on isolation, the over-reliance on fucking Paul George in the playoffs, the over-reliance on Kawhi Leonard just hitting a fuck you mid-range shot, which, hey, he does that a lot, but it's nice to have a backup plan like the Toronto Raptors did last year. They way over-rely on difficult shot making. So that was exposed by the Denver Nuggets because the Denver Nuggets run an offensive system that really creates good looks all the time. And even though there is a pretty massive, substantial difference in talent between the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers, it's made up for by the fact that the Clippers have an offensive system that creates a lot of easy looks. The Clippers are playing pickup ball the entire fucking game. And that's not acceptable. And it ended up being their biggest downfall. Even then, they should have won this series, and Kawhi Leonard should not go 6 for whatever the fuck he was in this series. I should look it up, but I'm way too amped up right now to look up some fucking stats. All I can tell you is Kawhi played like shit regardless of how many shots that he missed. And in terms of the future of both of these teams, talking about the Clippers, dude, I don't even know what happens. I have no idea. I'm pretty confident Doc Rivers is going to get fired. That's one thing I can say. And I'm pretty confident that there won't be any significant trade. They might manage to trade Paul George. It depends. I actually had an idea for a 3-team trade that I didn't really work out the details of if James Harden demanded a trade where the Clippers would move Paul George to a 3rd team and they would get James Harden. But that's a whole nother thing that we'll worry about when the time comes to it, because that only happens if Harden demands a trade. But I don't think you can make any big trades. But in terms of the future of this Clippers team, yeah, it wouldn't have been detrimental if they didn't win this championship, but they had to at least make the conference finals in order for me to confidently say that they have a good future, because Kawhi and Paul George each only have 1 locked-in year on their contract left. And things don't look great right now. So you have to win a championship next fucking season, or your future is fucked. Because Kawhi and George can walk away, and you traded all of those first-round picks for Paul George. All of those first-round picks. And for the Denver Nuggets, what's sad and what's scary is this Nuggets team is not at its peak, to say the least. Nikola Jokic is like 25 years old. He can still improve. His jumper improves in the playoffs, and I imagine it can improve further. Michael Porter Jr., that guy could average 30 points per game one day. Not even going to have an ounce of hesitation on that one. He can average 30. And Jamal Murray stepping up his game. He was a little more quiet in this series than he was in the Utah Jazz series, but to close out this game, he sure as fuck wasn't quiet. He hit a ridiculous three-pointer that was pretty much the nail in the coffin if the coffin wasn't already under fucking ground. So Jamal Murray is amazing. Michael Porter Jr. is amazing. Nikola Jokic is amazing. They have all these great role players. Shout out to my boy, Jeremy motherfucking Grant, because that dude, I adore him as a player. He's my favorite role player in the league by far. He's probably in my top 5 favorite players in the league. He played amazing in this game. Amazing. He had 14 points, phenomenal defense on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, whichever one he was getting matched up with. Best perimeter defender on the Denver Nuggets, and he was locking those guys up this game. And made his threes, made his shots, very athletic. Just Jeremy Grant is awesome. That's the point. So the Denver Nuggets have a very bright future, and they have everything to look forward to. Win or lose versus the Lakers, and I'm going to pick, spoiler alert for tomorrow's video, even though I'm going to talk about the series in depth. I think the Lakers are going to win that series. But this is now, last year they lost in the second round to the Portland Trail Blazers. This year they beat a better team in the Clippers, and they're now going to a conference finals, which is more winnable than the Warriors last year. So things are looking well up for the Denver Nuggets. I'd be very ecstatic to be a Denver Nuggets fan right now. For the Clippers, things do not look good. And the future is scary for them, because if the Clippers don't work it out next year, it's probably over. Like, for that team for the next 10 years, it's probably over. And that is a scary fucking thought. So, yeah, that was what the fuck. I didn't open up asking for subscriptions because I was opening up with saying what the fuck. So if you like this video, subscribe. I was wrong about the Clippers while also being right, because I did think they were over-reliant on shots that were difficult shots. But my God, I didn't think it'd be as big of a deal as it was. So that was the downfall of the Los Angeles Clippers. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this. Well, one more what the fuck, and cue the outro music.